Grimlock. If you know one Dinobot, it's this one. Grimlock is the king, the leader, the most iconic transformer who isn't Optimus Prime, and the guy who has made every other Dinobot possible by existing. In Generation 1, he transforms into a mechanical Tyrannosaurus Rex, breathes fire, hits harder than almost anything on Cybertron, and talks like he ate a dictionary and spat out only the words he found useless. Me Grimlock. Me no like Autobots. Me Grimlock king. That speech pattern isn't stupidity, and this is where his character gets genuinely interesting. Depending on the continuity, Grimlock is actually one of the most intelligent beings on Cybertron, deliberately dumbing himself down to either manipulate others or because his powerful body literally makes nuanced thought painful. The Dinobots exist because of him. The chaos that follows them exists because of him. And if you're reading this list, you're here because of him. Slug. Right out of the gate, this Dinobot came with a naming problem. Slug transforms into a Triceratops, and in G1 was named exactly that, Slag. The issue is that in British English, Slag is a genuinely offensive slur, so Hasbro eventually renamed him Slug in newer toy lines and media. The character didn't change, just the name. And honestly, Slug fits him fine because this bot is mean, aggressive, blunt, and about as subtle as getting hit by an actual Triceratops. He has two side-mounted cannons that fire bolts of 3000 degrees Celsius fire, making him one of the most destructive Dinobots in close to medium-range combat. He hates almost everyone, respects nobody except Grimlock on a good day, and has more in common with his alt-mode's personality than most Transformers would admit. In the IDW run, his history is fleshed out considerably, and the war crimes angle gets applied to him too. Sludge. Here's the gentle giant that nobody talks about enough. Sludge transforms into a Brachiosaurus, which tells you everything about his role in the group. Long neck, massive body, slow movement, enormous power. He's the least combative Dinobot by nature, the one most likely to wander off and stare at something instead of fighting. In G1, he's written as the least intelligent of the group, which is a characterization that aged poorly. Newer comics pushed back on this, giving him more depth. But even in G1, there's something compelling about a character who just doesn't want to be there. He'll follow Grimlock because that's how it works. But given the choice, Sludge would rather exist peacefully than wage war. Snarl. Solar-powered and antisocial. Two things that describe Snarl perfectly. He transforms into a Stegosaurus, and those iconic plates running down his back aren't just for show. In robot mode, they absorb sunlight and convert it into raw power, meaning Snarl gets stronger the more exposure he has to direct energy. In the dark or underground, he's weakened significantly, which is one of the few genuine mechanical vulnerabilities any G1 character has. He's the loner of the group, doesn't talk much, doesn't seek anyone out, prefers to be left alone, which is impressive considering he lives in a bunker with 4 other Dinobots who are collectively incapable of quiet. Swoop, the one Dinobot who can actually fly, which makes him simultaneously the most tactically useful and the one most likely to ruin a stealth mission by being enormous and on fire. Swoop transforms into a Tyrannatron. He's faster than the others, more agile, capable of aerial bombardment and reconnaissance. You'd think this would make him the most feared. Instead, he ends up being the most approachable. Swoop is friendlier than his teammates, more willing to engage with other Autobots, less wrapped up in Grimlock's pride. He gets along with humans better than any other Dinobot, which in G1 says more about how low the bar was than anything. There's a running thread in some comics where Swoop is the one Dinobot who actually wants to be part of the team rather than tolerating it. Paddles. Most fans have never heard of this one, and that's because Paddles lives almost entirely in the IDW comics continuity. She's a Dinobot who transforms into a Plesiosaur, making her the aquatic member of the team and one of the few Dinobots confirmed as female in that run. Her role is limited, but her existence matters because it expands what a Dinobot can be. The Dinobots were always coded as the Land and Air Squad. Paddles pushed that into the water and opened the door for the kind of expanded roster that later comics and toy lines would run with. She doesn't get much page time before her story is cut short, and that's exactly the problem with being a deep-cut character in a franchise this size. She deserved more. Slash. Slash appears in toy lines as a Velociraptor Dinobot. Fast, low to the ground, built for hit-and-run attacks rather than the full frontal assault strategy that Grimlock uses for literally everything. In the film, she's part of Lockdown's collection of imprisoned mechanical creatures, broken out alongside the others. She doesn't get dialogue in the movie, which is a recurring problem with the Bayverse Dinobots, but her design is genuinely menacing in a way that smaller Predator alt modes pull off better than the giant ones. The IDW comics gave her more to work with, including a personality built around surgical precision and a level of discipline that makes her stand out from the chaotic energy of the rest of the team. Scorn. Now here's an Age of Extinction Dinobot that actually has some presence. Scorn transforms into a Spinosaurus, which means he's bigger than most, has that distinctive sail running down his back, and moves with a kind of unpredictable aggression that the Triceratops and Pterosaur alt modes don't quite deliver. In terms of raw physicality on screen, Scorn is one of the most visually impressive Dinobots in the film. He gets actual moments rather than just existing, and the the Spinosaurus choice was smart because it's visually distinct from the T-Rex without competing with Grimlock for dominance. In a movie that struggled to differentiate its giant metal dinosaurs, Scorn at least registers as himself. Strafe, the Age of Extinction team needed a second flyer and Strafe delivered, transforming into a two-headed pterosaur that looks like exactly the kind of thing a mad scientist would build if you gave them a budget and no safety oversight. Two heads means two sets of teeth, two angles of attack, and a design that leans into the alien weirdness of mechanical prehistoric creatures in a way the others don't. Strafe doesn't get much story, but the design alone earns the spot. There's something genuinely unsettling about a flying creature with twice the face it needs, and that unsettling quality is exactly what the Dinobots should project. Slugfest. Here is where the Dinobot concept crosses faction lines. Slugfest is not an Autobot. He is a Decepticon cassette, one of Soundwave's arsenal of small spy and combat units, and he transforms into a Stegosaurus. He is not a Dinobot. Paired in the field with Overkill, another Decepticon cassette who transforms into a T-Rex, Slugfest is aggressive, single-minded, and intensely loyal to Soundwave in the way all cassettes are, which is less loyalty and more total dependence. In combat, he uses the same solar energy collection that G1 Snarl uses, converting light into firepower, and he bites a lot. His tech spec portrays him as having a genuine enjoyment of mayhem that sits completely outside the strategic coldness most Decepticons present. Grimstone. Here's a character who gets the Dinobot leadership role in a completely different universe and does something interesting with it. Grimstone appears in the IDW comics as the leader of a separate Dinobot team, transforming into a Pachycephalosaurus. He's not a replacement for Grimlock. He's the leader of a different squad with a different set of values. Where Grimlock rules through dominance and pride, Grimstone rules through something closer to genuine responsibility. He actually cares about the Dinobots under him in a way that reads more like a commander than a conqueror. Parasaur Drone, part of Grimstone's team in IDW, transforms into a Parasaurolophus. The drones in this team don't have the fully individualized personalities of the original five, but they have enough distinct traits to function as characters rather than just bodies. The Parasaur Drone specifically operates as a tracker and scout, using the alt-mode sensory capabilities in ways that complement the team's overall tactical approach. It's not the most glamorous role, but in a military unit, the scout who keeps everyone alive matters more than the soldier who gets the glory. Pachycephalosaurus Drone, another member of Grimstone's team, filling a close combat role. The Pachycephalosaurus alt mode is built for one thing: ramming. The dome-shaped skull is nature's battering ram, and whoever designed this character knew exactly what they were doing. Where other Dinobots use teeth and claws and fire, this drone uses momentum and impact. It's a more specific fighting style, and that specificity makes it memorable even without a deep personal history. Ankylosaurus Drone, the tank of Grimstone's team, and arguably the most offensively capable Dinobot that isn't equipped with a dedicated weapons platform. The Ankylosaurus alt mode is covered in armored plating and swings a club tail that hits like a wrecking ball. In a squad built around diverse combat roles, Slog, not to be confused with Slug, Slog is a G1 character from the Marvel Comics who transforms into an Apatosaurus. He's part of a second wave of Dinobots that appeared in the comics and never made it to the animated series, which means a huge chunk of the audience missed him entirely. Slog is slower than the original five in terms of narrative momentum as well as physical speed. He's thoughtful where Grimlock is impulsive, cautious where Slag is reckless. In the comics, he's used mostly as a foil for the more aggressive Dinobots, the voice that asks whether the plan is smart before they all charge in. Magmatron. This is where things get strange in the best possible way. Magmatron is a Predacon commander from Beast Wars Neo, the Japanese animated series, who transforms not into one dinosaur but three: a Giganotosaurus, a Quetzalcoatlus, and an Elasmosaurus, which can combine into one massive creature or function as separate components. He's one of the most physically imposing characters in the entire Beast Wars era, built for power in every direction. His story arc involves him pursuing Leo convoy across space while managing his own crew of Predacons, which is a delicate task since Predacons are not exactly known for team cohesion. He later appears in IDW comics with significantly expanded characterization, including a stint in a trans-temporal prison that gives him the kind of moral ambiguity that the Beast Wars era handled better than almost any other chapter of Transformers. Airraptor, a Maximal from Beast Wars 2nd who transforms into a Tyrannatron. If Swoop is the G1 aerial Dinobot, Airraptor is the Beast Wars equivalent, filling a similar tactical role in a very different story context. Beast Wars 2nd was another Japanese series that ran alongside the main Beast Wars continuity, and Airraptor is one of several characters from that run who never made it into Western markets in any meaningful way. She's fast, capable, and operates as a reconnaissance specialist in the Maximal team. Rapticon functions as the speed striker of the team. Built around velocity and agility, he fills the role of rapid assault and flanking attacks. Where heavier Dinobots smash through defenses head-on, Rapticon disrupts enemies by moving quickly around the battlefield and targeting weak points. His design design reflects a more tactical interpretation of the Dinobot concept, emphasizing mobility and precision rather than pure destructive power. Striker, a straightforward entry. Striker appears in the Universe toy line as a Dinobot with a combat-first design philosophy. His characterization is thin compared to the longer-running characters, but his role in the Universe continuity is as a soldier who does the job without the ego complications that Grimlock-adjacent Dinobots tend to bring with them. Sometimes a team needs the one who just shows up and fights. Tyrannatron. Tyrannatron is the heavy weapons platform of the group. His purpose is to deliver large-scale firepower and battlefield suppression. Compared with the faster Dinobots, Tyrannatron is slower but far more destructive, capable of overwhelming enemy defenses with sheer force. In the team's tactical arrangement, he anchors engagements by providing the kind of raw firepower the Dinobots are traditionally known for. Knockdown. Knockdown operates as one of the team's enforcement specialists. His role focuses on close-quarters domination and physically overwhelming opponents once the fight collapses into melee range. Rather than functioning as artillery or reconnaissance, Knockdown is designed to end fights through direct physical confrontation, reinforcing the team's offensive pressure during close engagements. Hacksaw. Hacksaw fills a similar enforcement role to Knockdown but emphasizes brutal close combat capability. Built for direct engagements, he specializes in tearing through enemies at short range and finishing battles once the opposing force is destabilized. Triceradon. From the Robots in Disguise toy line and Transformers universe, Triceradon brings the Triceratops alt mode back without the baggage of Slag's naming controversy. He's positioned as an Autobot rather than a fully independent Dinobot faction member, which changes his dynamic considerably. The lore around him is sparse, but the design is solid, and the Triceratops alt mode is reliable enough that it keeps appearing across generations for a reason. 3 horns and a charging attack that can flip vehicles. That sells itself. Dinotron, another universe and later continuity character who fills the Dinobot niche in a roster that needed prehistoric muscle. Dinotron's story is limited, but he exists as part of a recurring Transformers tradition of bringing dinosaur alt modes back whenever the franchise needs to remind you that giant mechanical dinosaurs are always an option. The alt mode specifics vary across appearances, but the attitude remains consistent. Dinotron fights, doesn't overthink it, and leaves the damage assessment to someone else. T-Rex. The name says everything and somehow still undersells it. T-Rex is a Maximal from Beast Wars universe who transforms into a Tyrannosaurus Rex and exists primarily to be as physically destructive as a Transformer can be without breaking the fiction. He's positioned as the heavy assault option, the one you deploy when the situation has moved past tactics and into consequences. His limited characterization is almost a feature rather than a bug. T-Rex doesn't need a complex inner world. His role is to arrive and end things. Boulder. Here's where the franchise gets deliberately friendly, because Boulder is from Rescue Bots, the animated series aimed at younger children. He transforms into a Triceratops and is one of 4 Rescue Bots assigned to work with the Burns family on Griffin Rock. Boulder is the one most connected to the natural world, caring about the environment and approaching problems with a thoughtfulness that contrasts with the combat-focused Dinobots elsewhere in the franchise. Rescue Bots treats its young audience with genuine respect, and Boulder is one of the reasons. He demonstrates that being big and powerful doesn't mean being destructive. Chase. Also from Rescue Bots, Chase normally transforms into a police car, but receives a Dinobot upgrade in certain storylines that turns him into a Velociraptor. Chase is rules-oriented, literal-minded, and deeply committed to doing the right thing even when the right thing is inconvenient. His Dinobot form doesn't change his personality, which is the interesting part. Watching a very by-the-book character navigate the chaos that comes with a prehistoric alt mode is exactly the kind of gentle comedy that Rescue Bots built its audience on. Heatwave. The leader of the Rescue Bots, Heatwave normally transforms into a fire truck and carries enough authority to keep the team functional despite everyone around him having strong opinions. His Dinobot form is a T-Rex variant, which gives the team's leader the most imposing prehistoric alt mode in the group. The parallel to Grimlock is obvious and intentional. Both are T-Rex Dinobots in leadership roles, but where Grimlock is defined by pride and aggression, Heatwave is defined by responsibility and protectiveness. Blades. The 4th Rescue Bot, Blades normally transforms into a helicopter and spends most of his screen time being nervous about the job. His Dinobot form is a pterosaur, again paralleling the aerial Dinobot tradition that goes back to Swoop. Blades is the most reluctant hero in the group, the one who'd rather be somewhere safer doing something less dangerous. That makes him one of the most relatable characters in a franchise that tends to celebrate fearlessness. Sometimes the bravest thing is being scared and showing up anyway. Blades shows up. Volcanicus. This is what happens when you combine 5 Dinobots into one. Volcanicus is the combiner form of Grimlock, Slug, Sludge, Snarl, and Swoop, introduced in the Power of the Prime's toy line and given expanded story context in the comics. Combiners and Transformers are always complicated because merging 5 distinct and frequently hostile personalities into one consciousness is not a smooth process. Volcanicus is particularly unstable for obvious reasons. You're combining the most stubborn, aggressive, antisocial group of Transformers ever assembled into a single being and expecting that being to function. The result is a combiner who hits harder than almost anything else on the battlefield, but whose internal conflict is audible from a distance. Scowl. From the age of extinction era toys and expanded media, Scowl transforms into an Ankylosaurus and brings the armored tank energy that the Bayverse Dinobot roster needed. He exists almost entirely in toy and comic form rather than having major screen time, but the design is one of the stronger entries in that era's expanded roster. The Ankylosaurus is an underused alt mode in the franchise, considering how naturally it lends itself to a defensive bruiser role. Slapper. From the Robots in Disguise 2001 series, Slapper is technically a Predacon who transforms into a frog, but gets included in certain Dinobot-adjacent discussions because of his prehistoric creature framing in that show's ecosystem. He's comedic, loud, and deeply ineffective as a villain, which makes him memorable in a way that more competent antagonists sometimes aren't. Slapper loses constantly and takes it personally every time. That's a character. Dinobot. This is the one that changes the conversation entirely. Dinobot from Beast Wars is not a simple dinosaur transformer. He's one of the most complex, fully realized characters the franchise has ever produced. He starts as a Predacon who defects to the Maximals after losing a challenge to Megatron, and from that moment forward he exists in a state of permanent internal conflict. He transforms into a Velociraptor, and his robot mode is built around a spinning blade weapon and a pair of optics that can read probability. He has a personal code of honor that drives him into decisions that make no tactical sense but make complete moral sense. He argues with Rat Trap constantly. He questions Optimus Primal regularly. He fights for a team he refuses to feel fully part of. Dinobot isn't just the best Beast Wars character. He might be the best Transformers character period. Dinobot II, a clone built from Dinobots, remains and infused with Rampage's spark energy, creating a creature that wears Dinobot's face but carries Megatron's loyalty. He has flashes of the original's memories, moments where something almost breaks through the conditioning, but they pass. And he serves Megatron faithfully in ways the original never would have. Dinobot II is tragedy in robot form, and the show knows it. He's not a villain you hate. He's a mirror you can't look away from. Goryu. From the Japanese Transformers Victory series, Goryu is the leader of a team called the Dynaforce, transforming into a Tyrannosaurus Rex. He's a Decepticon, which puts him in an interesting position because the Dinobot name typically belongs to Autobot-aligned prehistoric Transformers. Goryu's design is more elaborate than his Western counterparts, reflecting the Japanese series' tendency toward intricate aesthetics. His team uses a combining gimmick, individual members transforming into prehistoric creatures that combine into a larger form. He's a cult favorite in Japan and a genuine discovery for Western fans who dig into the Victory series. Kukuryu. Also from the Dynaforce in Transformers Victory, Kukuryu transforms into a pterosaur and fills the aerial role in what is again a pattern the franchise returns to consistently. His design has the detailed articulation and vivid color work that define the Victory era's toy aesthetic. He's a minor character in the grand architecture of Transformers history, but the Victory series represents a chapter of the franchise that rewarded the fans who found it, and Kukuryu is part of that reward. Every roster needs its flyer, and across 40 years of Transformers, that flyer almost always has scales. Yukuryu is the aerial combat specialist of the Dynaforce, transforming into a Tyrannatron. His role focuses on air superiority, reconnaissance, and striking enemies from above, giving the otherwise ground-heavy team aerial coverage. In the Dinoking combination, he contributes the flight capability that allows the combiner-limited aerial maneuverability. Raryu transforms into a Triceratops and operates as the group's charging attacker. Built for direct engagement, he specializes in breaking enemy lines through brute force and aggressive frontal assaults. His aggressive combat style reflects the Dynaforce overall emphasis on overwhelming physical force. Doryu transforms into a Stegosaurus and functions as a heavy combatant within the team. His role centers on sustained close-range fighting and battlefield resilience, alongside the other ground-based Dynaforce members. In combined mode, he forms one of Dinoking's limbs, contributing additional stability and strength. Garyu transforms into an Ankylosaurus and serves as the armored brawler of the group. His design emphasizes durability and crushing melee attacks, making him particularly effective in close combat situations. His heavy armor and tail weaponry translate into raw striking power when integrated into Dinoking. Trypticon is a massive Decepticon titan who transforms into a gigantic mechanical theropod creature. In most continuities, he serves as a mobile city and battle station for the Decepticons, functioning as both fortress and frontline weapon. Unlike the Dinobots, his dinosaur form exists purely to deliver overwhelming destructive power on a massive scale. He is not a Dinobot, but rather the Decepticons' equivalent of an entire walking war machine. Beast Wars Megatron. The Predacon commander in Beast Wars transforms transforms into a Tyrannosaurus Rex. He combines the intimidation of the dinosaur form with calculated strategy, manipulation, and long-term planning while leading the Predacons against the Maximals. His T-Rex mode reinforces his authority and predatory image throughout the series. Despite the dinosaur form, he is not a Dinobot but a Predacon warlord using the same prehistoric imagery. Pterosaur. Pterosaur is a Predacon aerial warrior who transforms into a pterosaur. Throughout Beast Wars, he repeatedly attempts to overthrow Megatron and take command of the Predacons, usually failing due to impatience or poor judgment. His aerial mobility makes him useful in combat despite his unstable ambitions. He is not a Dinobot, but a Predacon whose prehistoric alternate mode simply resembles those used by the Autobots Dinobot teams. Overkill. Overkill is one of Soundwave's cassette Decepticons and transforms into a compact mechanical Tyrannosaurus Rex. Designed for sudden deployment, he is released from Soundwave's chest compartment to tear through enemies in close-range combat. His approach is straightforward. Charge in and destroy whatever is in front of him. Despite sharing the iconic dinosaur form, he is not a Dinobot but a Decepticon cassette built for brute force attacks. If you want to watch similar content in the future, please like the video and subscribe to the channel, and stay tuned for the next video.